Hey everyone, Tankenstein here. In this video, I'll examine the timeless question, is War Thunder pay to win? I'll go over everything War Thunder can have you pay for with real money and if any of those things are actually pay to win and give you an edge in game, as well as give you a better chance of winning. This said, I'll go over a few different things such as vehicles that some people might consider to be pay to win, so-called pay to win advancement such as premium time, immediately buying normal tech tree planes with convertible RP, as well as buying all of their modules immediately, and other things. I'll also go over some suggestions on how to help fix the issue, if there is indeed one. Ultimately, the possible issue of pay to win in a free-to-play game comes down to if someone can have an unfair advantage by purchasing something superior in-game that someone else might not be able to purchase. I'll go over this and more in as factual and as unbiased of a way as possible, and will try to take my opinion out of it, except when I explicitly mention my opinion on the issue. We'll also use actual stats to develop an answer that should hopefully, once and for all, answer whether War Thunder is pay to win or not. That said, let's get into it. So, the features you can pay for in War Thunder directly or via Golden Eagles are currently as follows: Premium Time, Convertible RP, Boosters, Battle Pass, Premium Vehicles, Instant Module Research, Silver Lions, Event Stars, Marketplace items such as vehicles, camos, and fun decorations, and finally, bushes to hide your ground vehicle. The majority of these focus on either the direct purchase of vehicles or the speed at which you research them. I'll try to give you answers as to whether or not each of these individual features are inherently pay to win, and hopefully give you, the viewer, a bit of a different perspective so you can judge them all for yourself. This said, a vehicle researched with premium time is no better than one researched without premium time. What does get tricky, however, is when you decrease the amount of time needed to research modules for any vehicle in particular, as these are what will separate you from everyone else that has a stock vehicle. Ultimately, yes, it does take skill to win, and you will not win if you have no idea of what you're doing regardless of the power of your vehicle. But, as is especially obvious in top tier air matches, he who has the most advanced missiles will win the vast majority of the time. Unless, of course, you face me. So, by this metric, is premium time pay to win? No, but one could argue that it makes it easier to do better by allowing the research of modules to be done more quickly, and especially in tanks, where you have to research the best shells just to pen an enemy, which could be a huge deal. One could lump in convertible RP and boosters in with premium time as well, as convertible RP and boosters are essentially just speeding the process up even more than premium time, but without the added benefit of gaining quicker RP for module research. Boosters can up RP for module research, so that is kind of excluded from what I just said, but it is very inefficient to do so via Golden Eagles, as it costs currently 499 Golden Eagles for a 75% booster for 10 matches. To me, that just is not worth it at all, especially when a week of premium time gives more RP per match and is only slightly more expensive. So with these three purchasable features out of the way and largely, if not entirely, not defined as pay to win, let's look at Battle Pass next. Battle Pass is interesting because it does have a free aspect to it, but the free rewards are essentially all of the lesser rewards, such as boosters, war bonds, and silver lions. They're still great, but they're not vehicles. What's interesting is if you pay for Battle Pass, you have the chance to earn up to 4 vehicles, which for their current season are the Matilda Hedgehog, the Super Corsair, the Destroyer HMS Garland, and the T-10A. If you have the chance to try out any of these, with the exception of possibly the Super Corsair, none are particularly good. Of course, the Matilda is a meme tank with a chance for a one-hit kill, but it is basically just a regular Matilda with rockets. Much the same goes for the Garland and the T-10A, and from how I tested it, the T-10A is just not that good. This leaves the Super Corsair, which currently sits at 6.7 BR and has an unremarkable, if not poor, loadout and faces jets. Apart from the collector aspect of these vehicles, they are almost objectively average insofar as stats and capabilities are concerned, and hold no particular advantage over any other vehicle they might face. So, is Battle Pass pay to win? Using the metric laid out in my intro, I'd say not, especially being that there are still pretty okay free rewards. And now for premium vehicles. This is what people think are pay to win more than anything else. Before we can even get into it, what exactly is a pay to win vehicle? It is a vehicle that the community has deemed to be so overpowered that its presence alone can make up for the lack of skill and bring a person and a team to victory. This said, some commonly cited pay-to-win vehicles are the XM1, the Harrier GR1, A2D1, Leopard A1, A1 L44, T72 AV terms, etc. Most vehicles that people consider to be pay-to-win sit at the top or near the top of their tech trees. This is largely because, as is seemingly tradition with Gaijin, they like to place vehicles with unique capabilities and or technology that is relatively new to the game just into the premium tech tree before introducing these technologies to the rest of the game or making them available to people who do not play the game constantly. The RU-251, for example, was seemingly unstoppable when it was first placed in-game, and while still very powerful, has been reined in by the addition of other similar vehicles around its BR. Now this raises the question of if vehicles are pay to win upon release until, well, they aren't anymore. Whether Gaijin increases their BRs or because other vehicles and tactics that can counter the supposedly pay to win premium vehicles become more commonplace in game. And while it's too early to say what the win rates were with the Harrier GR1 when it was first released, at least according to the flawed website Thunderskill, one could extrapolate that they were very good and really, to be honest, still are quite good, but obviously they were winning almost every match when they first came out. But as time has been moving forward, however, I can personally attest to being in many more equal fights against teams loaded with those planes, largely because both tactics and vehicles have caught up to the menace that was the GR1. Regardless, one of the things that made and still makes the Harrier GR1 are the SRAM missiles that it has, which are not seen in any other premium vehicle currently in game. These missiles can do a nearly 90-degree turn at almost 0.15 kilometers away from their target to wipe them out, which is insane. The other vehicle that came out simultaneously with a similar VTOL function is the Yak-38, and while it's good, it is not nearly as good as the GR1. Its missiles are worse, it has no native cannons, no afterburners, awful acceleration compared to the Harrier, is less agile, etc. And yet it started at the same BR as the Harrier, which is an objectively better plane in game. And don't get me going about the Japanese F-86 Premium, which is a 9.3 and was at the same BR as the Harrier GR1. Another example could be the XM1, although that has had numerous BR increases, if I'm not mistaken, since it became a vehicle in-game. And if I'm not mistaken, it's had at least one, possibly two of those BR increases. This has turned it from a pay-to-win vehicle to just a good vehicle that gets purchased by wallet warriors and that don't make the vehicle look good at all. The Leopard A1 L44 is much the same, and if you go by Thunderskill stats on that vehicle, it has over a 60% win rate after over 20,000 matches, which is well above the margin of error if you take Thunderskill as a somewhat reliable source for win stats. You could attribute this to how good the Leopard is, or to the fact that top-tier German tanks tend to be some of the best tanks in-game when used properly. It's easy to look good when everyone else around you looks good. Now, to get into stats, nothing is particularly good about it outside of the 120mm L44 cannon, of which is not seen in German tech until 0.7 BRs later with the Leopard 2K. So this said, it has almost 393mm of armor pen with its APS FDS ammo, which at 9.0 BR is not even incredible, as the Leopard A1 A5 with the Radcom Falcon 90 as well, both having more armor pen with their top ammo choices. The cannon size definitely is a standout, but it is not capable of making this tank pay to win, which to me, if you look at the XM1, it's got a 50% give or take win rate on Thunderskill. Really, I think a lot of this pay to win mentality, a lot of what people see as pay to win, is just that they're getting they're facing a really good tech tree, which you could argue that the German tech tree is better than the American, the Russian, the English, whatever. But it's not necessarily that the premiums are the problem, it's that the regular vehicle tech trees are just so good. Aside from the Harrier and the previously mentioned tanks, I would point to the T72 AV as being another candidate for being pay to win. That said, let's examine it. It currently sits at 9.7 BR and is the highest BR tank currently in-game that you can purchase for real money outside of the marketplace/event tanks. It features a fast reloading 125mm cannon with up to 479mm of armor pen, as well as tons of reactive armor which will shield it from lesser shells. Its 479mm of armor pen places it at the top of 9.7 BR with the exception of the Ariat P for the Italians, which has 481mm of armor pen with its top ammo. When combined with its armor, cannon size, and speed, this, I feel, along with the GR1, are likely the best candidates for being pay to win in-game, and while you can certainly lose with each of these vehicles, especially as they are currently in the BR range of the top vehicles in-game, they do possibly present an advantage that other vehicles of their BRs simply do not have, in that they could just be better vehicles that, heck, you can purchase with real money. Regardless, now and in the future, as current vehicles become less pay to win and new vehicles are added which will, at the time of their release, be considered pay to win, we will likely be stuck in this cycle with premium vehicles for a long time, whether it is intentional or unintentional on the part of Gaijin to earn money by giving people a possibly unfair advantage by purchasing vehicles with real money. So, that said, are some vehicles pay to win? I say that this is the strongest argument one could have for pay to win in War Thunder thus far for what I've already discussed. While the best premium vehicles do not guarantee wins, they certainly make it easier to do so in many cases when compared to similar regular tech tree vehicles. These can be corrected with BR changes or even stat changes, so long of course as they remain historically accurate. My opinion though is that there are some truly bad tanks, with most of these being in tier 1 and a lot of them being the French reserve tanks, and some good tanks. But there are very few, if any, tanks that are completely overpowered, or planes for that matter. Every vehicle has a strength and every vehicle has a weakness. We are no longer in the days where a mouse could rule supreme and you needed either a lucky shot or a bomb to beat it. Every tank is beatable. My opinions aside, we all know that there is only one truly pay-to-win tank, and that's the B1 Terre for the French, but you're not ready for that conversation. So, being that premium vehicles are basically what most people consider to be the most pay-to-win aspect of War Thunder, I'll try to go over the next few things very quickly while giving as much detail as possible. Now, for instant module research, you can research the best modules for your vehicle and give it its top stats immediately. If you're flying a plane, you can increase your climb rate by oftentimes upwards of 40%, especially in arcade, and speed by hundreds of kilometers per hour at top tier, as well as equip yourself with missiles that could otherwise take a very long time to research regularly. Much the same goes for tanks and their modules and ships with theirs. So is this pay to win? I would actually say that it is, even more than premium vehicles are pay to win, but to a lesser extent in a way. So it is more consistently pay to win than premium vehicles when you consider the entirety of premium vehicles currently offered, which objectively most are just average vehicles, but it is also affecting your success rate likely to a lesser extent than having a fully researched vehicle that has a ridiculous weapon / BR advantage like some premium vehicles are claimed to have, such as, again, the T-72AV Terms and the Harrier GR1, at least when they were first released. You're basically just unlocking your vehicle to its full potential, and as such, it will likely help you perform better, but not to an incredible extent. So, is it pay to win? Yes, but not so much where you're going to just automatically win matches, and it's not making your regular plane some overpowered thing. It's just turning your stock plane into the best version of itself, or stock tank into the best version of itself. And moving forward, buying Silver Lions, I would say, is not pay to win in the same way that Premium Time is not pay to win. In much the same way, buying event stars is not pay to win, as you are simply accelerating the process to earn a vehicle that anyone, whether they pay for it or not, can own. Buying things through the marketplace is largely the same, but there are some vehicles such as the Object 279, AU1, and others which have been accused of being pay to win, which you can only purchase at this point through the marketplace. Marketplace, however, is not inherently a pay-to-win function, as much of it is just a trap that keeps people buying and selling, all the while lining Gaijin's pockets with the fees that they take with each transaction. And finally, the only other thing that I've listed that I've not gone over yet are bush decorations. Are these pay-to-win? No, not entirely, but they can help you survive if you use them wisely. Ultimately, they don't give you any advantage unless you sit still, for the most part no advantage, and have the bushes to match the foliage that you're hiding in. Even still, it only works on certain vehicles and primarily in realistic only. This all said, for my final verdict based on the aforementioned evidence, is War Thunder pay to win? I'd say 99% of the game is not pay to win. From premium time to convertible RP to even the vast majority of premium vehicles, War Thunder is simply just not pay to win. Even some of the most popular and often cited vehicles as being pay to win, such as the XM1 or JU288C, have, according to Thunderskill, very average win rates, with the XM1 being just above 50% and the JU288C being below 60%. I think that how good an individual premium vehicle is largely depends on the composition of the team and the country around it at that BR. The Panther A and all German vehicles around it have a high win rate of around 60%, largely due to the insane lineup that is around that BR for the Germans. One good vehicle does not a team make, and with the exception of very few vehicles and for typically very short amounts of time, such as the Harrier GR1, War Thunder very rarely has vehicles that absolutely dominate immediately once they enter the game as a premium. They may be good for a while, but they become simply good rather than amazing vehicles once people learn how to stop them and once Gaijin sometimes changes their BRs, of course if they're a big enough problem. These vehicles, however, are the exception and not the rule. They are anomalies. Does this mean that War Thunder is still free to play though? Well, that's another question for another time, but for now, I hope I was able to clear it up and provide some insight with stats, facts, and my opinion from playing the game for around 7 years. And just as kind of a closing note for this video, I don't want you to think that my standard for considering a vehicle pay to win is that it has to have some sort of a death ray that kills every vehicle within a 5-mile radius. Simply, that's not the case. What I consider to be pay to win is a vehicle that you can purchase with real money that has a unique advantage over other opponents around its BR that will lead to more wins simply because of this advantage. Nothing more, nothing less. And in my opinion, there are very few, if any, vehicles that I could consider to be pay to win, and typically they don't hold that throne for very long. Also, because there are just a few vehicles that one could consider to be pay to win at any given time, maybe 1, 2, 3 vehicles. I mean, heck, who really considers the XM1 to be pay to win anymore? I mean, it's very good, don't get me wrong, but there are other vehicles of its BR that are comparable, if not better, potentially, in the regular tech tree. The XM1 is just kind of a means to an end to get yourself an advanced vehicle at that point in the tech tree that will help you research other vehicles. At this point, it's basically just equivalent to the other vehicles in its tech tree, give or take. One could consider it good, but pay to win, I wouldn't say so. So just don't let those 1, 2, or 3 vehicles in the game, in the whole game, spoil the batch for you, because ultimately, again, one bad apple should not spoil the batch. And what you really see is you see a lot of top tier players and top tier vehicles, which is where almost all of these pay to win, so to speak, vehicles sit at the top tier. You hear all these people complaining about it, and then that probably scares away a lot of lower BR players. The vast majority of this game is played on lower BRs. I mean, think about it. If you get into a lower BR match, you will likely have a much higher population density in that match than you do at top tier, if you do play top tier. It's because most people play at tier 5 and below. It's just how it is. And so if you do play at tier 5 and below, don't worry about it. Seriously, don't worry about it. You do not have any, really many, if any, pay to win vehicles, so to speak, or overpowered vehicles at around these BRs, below, let's say 7.0 BR. There are some good ones like the RU251, but no truly pay to win vehicles. So either way, this is Tankenstein. Thanks so much for watching my video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Please remember, like, comment, subscribe. I hope I provided some insight to this topic, and I know this is a long video, but there's a lot that I had to go over. Again, please, thank you so much. Please subscribe if you could. Either way, signing out for tonight. Again, thanks guys, and be excellent to each other. I'll see you all on the other side. Take care, everyone.